information that can help you solve some of the questions that you have in your head. Am I making the right decisions in my retirement? I'm staying up at night because the market has pulled back 20%. The Feds are raising the interest rates, but my bank is still paying me 0.1%. What are the other options I could have? So we're not here to sell anything. We are just here to make sure that you're educated. You can make better choices when you are. At the end of the conversation, during the conversation, I asked for three things. Please, if you could silence your phone. We have a lot of material to cover. Just silence your phone out of respect for everybody so that we can get through the material with little disruption. If you need to use the bathroom, out that door to the left. What a beautiful facility this is. I've never been here, so I love it. And then the third thing is, in your folder, you will see some sheets. Some of you have already filled them out and given them back. Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Just if you hear something that you would like more information on, that's why we're here. We're here all day. We can take questions. I prefer that we hold the questions till the end so that we get through the material. Whatever question you may have may be answered in a later slide, or just hold it so that we get through the material first, and then I will take the questions. I started this journey 9 years ago, not because I had money to invest, but because I didn't have it, right? Imagine being 35 years old, you have 3 kids, and you're going through a divorce, and all of a sudden you realize, I'm gonna need a plan. Like, I don't have a plan. My plan was to be happily ever after, but here I am. So I made a few calls. I lived in Connecticut at the time. I made a few calls to financial advisors, and I left the same message. Hello, my name is Florence. I just moved to the country. I'm looking to come up with a financial plan because I'm going through a divorce. Please call me back. 5 calls. I got 1 call like almost 3 weeks later. And the guy said, so did you say you have assets to invest or not? Because I speak fast, so I guess he didn't hear I don't have any. I said, I have assets. He said, well, how much do you have? I said, I have 3 kids. And he laughed at me and he said, it's illegal in the United States to sell your children. I thought I was being funny, it didn't go well. So I said, it's not a preserve of the United States to sell your children, not to sell them. Nobody sells their children. It's not a legal business anywhere in the world. So I'm not looking to sell my children. I'm looking to come up with a plan. I realize I'm behind the curve. I'm gonna need a plan. If something happens to me, I'm in a foreign country, I literally have no plan. He said, try the credit union. So I figured, you know what? I'm gonna find the answer for myself. Because right now, in between me and poverty, there was like poverty. I came from a middle class family. When you do the math and convert your million shillings into American dollars, it's $8,000. So I had no money, but I was ambitious. So I did my research. I found different firms that offer financial services, and so I applied for jobs. I applied to 5 companies: Bank of America, Morgan Stanley. Some of you will know the names, UBS, RBS. I never realized the discrimination that happens. 1, for accent, 2, for gender, 3, for assets. I hit all 3. Okay? Finally, somebody gave me a job. Bank of America said, we want to give you a job because you add diversity to our team. Which is great, more for diversity. You're diversity to our team, but you don't know the coins. So we're going to need you to spend 6 months in the United States, learn the coin, and then come back and work. So I say to them, how much coin do I need to learn? I come from a country that we don't use coin. 1 coin cannot buy 10 coins, 100 coins cannot buy you anything. So, coin was not a priority. They say, well, when you did the test, you failed to give the client 73 cents in change. So I had to pick coin, visual coin, and of course I failed. And so I sat in the room. It was 6 men who were interviewing me, nothing against the man. But I just thought, all those 6 of them said, we really love your experience, but you're 73 cents short. That's how I felt. But my true value to the organization was worth 73 cents. Obviously, I was young and audacious. I didn't feel I was worth 73 cents, so I said, I don't want the job. Back on the job hunt, hunted again. my account is going down, and I'm like, I really need a real plan. I'm probably going to go work at Talbot's or someplace, but it's still not going to solve it. Morgan Stanley called me back and said, would love to hire you. I said, can you train me? And I learned a lot, right? But the most painful lesson is how many people have no information, the information gap. What is your money doing? All of us have a different answer to that question. Some of us think we're doing great, but when you use a professional and look and see what your money is doing, you can really harmonize that picture. Because there's what you think your money is doing, and there's what your money is actually doing. So we're here today to share with you just different strategies that you could employ to make sure that the picture that you have in your mind or the concern that you have in your mind about your money can actually be addressed, and you can get free help. And you have us, the team is a pretty large team. We'll introduce everybody at the end, but I'd love to introduce Patrick. Patrick goes around the country speaking on asset preservation, social security issues. This is purely educational. Please hold your questions and I'll answer them at the end. Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you, Flora. It's good to see you again. It's good to speak for you again. I have to confess, full confession here. I made a mistake when I agreed to do this 2 or 3 months ago when she was planning the date. The 27th. I thought it was September 27th. September 27th is a Tuesday. I would never commit to August 27th, a Saturday. I mean, shouldn't we all be like out on a boat or something, or playing golf or something? It's just a beautiful day. I mean, it's like not only is it going to be 80 today. So I'm joking. I knew it was August. I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad everybody else is here as well. And I'm going to make it worth your while. We're going to share some really, really good information with you today. And why are we here? We're here to talk about asset preservation. This is the Asset Preservation Workshop. And as my daughter would often say to me, well, what does that even mean? And in order to understand what this workshop is all about, we have to understand the number one fear facing individuals in retirement. And that fear is living too long and running out of money. Longevity risk, right? Number one. It's not only the number one risk, it's the number one fear. And if we only knew how long we were going to live, it would make the planning process so simple. You think about it, if you're married, you got to figure out how long 2 people are going to live, let alone 1. Now it's twice as hard. But if the big guy upstairs could just text us the date we're going to pass away, wouldn't that make the planning process really simple? You think about that, you wouldn't even need a financial planner. You could do a simple calculation. I have so much money. I'm going to live so many days. Take out a little bit every day. You know how long you're going to live? Planning's easy. But that's the problem. We don't know how long we're going to live. And the longer we live, the greater the odds that something is going to happen to us that will affect our retirement plan, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some things that can affect us in retirement that you might not be thinking about. We're going to address them and maybe try and put those behind us so we can live a happy, healthier, more successful retirement. So retirement, right? Easy street, smooth sailing, no issues, no problems. That was all back when we were working, right? In our working careers, right? We worked for 30 or 40 years in our careers. Maybe we got married, had children, bought a house, saved for retirement, built up our Social Security payment. Maybe we have a pension. That was the hard part, right? Going into retirement, and it's smooth sailing. I did all the hard work. Now we're going to enjoy it. Anybody here in the room retire in the last 2 years? Look what we've all gone through in the last 2 years, right? March of 2020, world pandemic, COVID, shut down the economic world for a year and a half. We had a stock market that plummeted in March of 2020. quickest drop ever in the history of the stock market, then recovered to all-time highs. This year it's pulling back, and then it's rallied. Anybody see what the market did on Friday? Yeah, down 1,000 points. Down. And why? Because the Federal Reserve made some pretty harsh comments about what lies ahead. Interest rates. Chairman Powell used the word pain. He literally used the word pain in an 8-minute discussion about the U.S. economy. He's going to bring on pain by raising interest rates to slow down this economy because of inflation. Highest inflation in 40 years. I don't care what you're buying or what you're doing, it costs significantly more today than it did 2 years ago. I mean, I could talk about inflation forever, I won't bore you. And you know, all these things that have happened to us, right, in the past 2 years. Oh, and by the way, the largest war in Europe since World War II. What's next? What's next? There's always something. Is it a massive cyber attack to our financial system? I don't know. So we have to be prepared for the future. And we have to make sure that our assets last as long as we do. So this is retirement. It's not easy street. It's all these words, right? Confusion, lost, unsure, doubtful, fear. We have to be prepared because we have to protect our nest egg. We're going to talk about 3 things that can affect our nest egg in retirement. And one of the biggest ones is failing to anticipate the need for long-term care. I mean, we all have experienced it. My mom's in an assisted living home. She's 92 years old, be 93 in January. I mean, the cost is unbelievable. And we'll talk about some statistics, but married couples that are 65 years or older, it's 70% chance one of you is going to be in a nursing home. It's just the odds. We're living longer. We're living more active lives. We're exercising. We're eating right. Medical technology, medical improvements, making us last longer. Period. Then we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about taxes, and we're going to talk about market volatility and risk. So let's jump right in. So we have 3 stages to our financial lives. A lot of people just think our financial life is just one big block of time, and it really isn't. You should look at it in 3 different stages. The first stage is the accumulation phase. And this is when we're younger. This is when we're starting out in our career, 20s and 30s, maybe our 40s. You know, we're working really hard. We're saving money on a regular basis. We're putting money into our 401k plans, our thrift savings plans, our IRAs, our Roths. And we're being very aggressive with that money because we have a long-term time horizon. We want this money to grow for our retirement. We have a long-term time horizon. And then as we get closer to retirement, maybe a couple of years out, we transition into what is called the conservation stage. And this is where we've got to be maybe a little bit more conservative with some of our money, because now we've got this money that we've accumulated and we have to make sure it lasts as long as we do. And we didn't get that text, so we don't know how long that is. And in this stage, again, we can't be super aggressive like we were in the accumulation phase. We've got to be conservative, at least with some of our money. Make sure that that principle always stays intact. Then we go into the final stage. That's the distribution phase. This is where we're maybe towards the end of our retirement. I like to say towards the end of our shelf life. And this is where we want to maybe pass on this money that we've worked so hard for and that we've preserved, and it's made it through most of our lives. And now we want to pass that on to our heirs and our beneficiaries as efficiently and quickly as possible without fees and taxes and probate. Very, very important to do that. And that's what Flora does. She looks at all three of these stages. She's an expert at knowing when people are moving from one stage to the next. Because they're different. They're different. You're going to act differently. You're going to do different things. You're going to have a different psychology of what you're doing with your money. It's very important to understand those. So let's jump into the first three things we're going to talk about. The first one is taxes. And man, I can get pretty passionate about taxes. And I know the AC isn't working, so I'm going to keep my cool, all right? I could really get fired up here today, but I won't. Taxes. They tax everything. Start with Social Security. When we retire, our Social Security is taxed. I mean, have you looked at any of your bills lately? Have you looked at a cell phone bill?
Yes.
Have you looked at a cable bill?
Yes.
Have you looked at a It's crazy what we pay in taxes. But Social Security is taxed. Interest on our bank accounts, the small amount that we're earning is taxed. Capital gains. If we make an investment and sell that investment for a gain, that's taxed. Whether it's a stock or an investment property, buy and sell, have a gain, it's taxed. Retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, thrift savings plans, taxed 100%. I like to say that there's a tax lien right on that account. It's a tax lien, and you have no idea what that tax lien is because we don't know what taxes are going to be in 30 years, 25 years, 10 years. Heck, we don't know where they're going to be in 3 years. And then finally, the estate tax, commonly known as the death tax. How do we avoid that? How do we avoid some of these? That's what we're going to try and talk about. So a few years ago in the prior administration lowered our tax rates. They are at the historic lowest level ever in the history of this country. Google it. That's my wife and I always say to each other, just Google it. Google it. It's the lowest level ever. I mean, in the 80s, it was like 70%. You know, we had a lot of write-offs. You could write off everything. Now, they've taken away our write-offs, and I would bet everybody here in this room takes a standard deduction. So now we have no write-offs, lowest rate ever. What happens when those rates go up or if they go up? Now we don't have the write-offs. So I like to ask this in these workshops when I speak, and I know Flora does it with everyone she meets. I'm going to ask you a question. Oh, let's talk one more quick thing. We know rates are at the lowest level. Where's our debt level? Anybody know what our national debt level is? Yeah, trillions with a T. It's $31 trillion. Write this down. USDebtClock.org. USDebtClock.org. Look at it. It's a running tab of what's going on with the finances of our country. We are running a deficit every year of at least $1 trillion. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. We are spending way too much money. Last year, we had record revenue. Record revenue. We still had a deficit. Makes no sense. So with all that said, the question that Flora likes to ask, as I do as well, who here in the room? Now you have to show of hands, all right? Everybody has to participate. Show of hands. Who here in the room thinks in the future tax rates are going lower? Come on, is everybody asleep? Nobody. Okay, everybody's committed to that. We're all in. Tax rates are going higher. I want you to remember that as we get deeper into this conversation. All right, so here's our tax rates. I'll just show you this real quick. Here's some interesting things. Okay, these tax rates are only good for 3 more years. Okay, if Congress does nothing, these tax rates revert to what they were prior. So Congress can just sit on their hands, and we know in 3 years, tax rates are going higher. January 1st of 2026, tax rates go higher, automatic. If you're a married couple right now in retirement, let's say you make $80,000 a year. You got a nice retirement. Social Security, pension, IRAs, $7,000 a month. God forbid, one spouse passes away. So one Social Security payment is probably going to go away. So the $80,000, let's say, drops to 60. Now you're single. Single and 60, you just go to the 22% bracket. You jump from 12 to 22. There's an automatic tax increase, and you're making less money. So we know they're going to be higher in 3 years. What are we going to do? So Social Security is taxed. It came out in 1935. It wasn't taxed. They started taxing it in 1983. 1993, they increased that. So how many years is that? 30 years, they've done nothing? Probably due to a tax increase on our Social Security. How much of our benefit is taxable? Well, it depends on how much other income you have. So we have to start with provisional income. Provisional income is you start with half of your Social Security income, whatever that is, half your Social Security, and add in all your other income. If you're working, add that in. If you have a pension, add it in. Interest, dividends, add it in. Rental properties, add it in. IRA distributions, add it in. Add all your income to half your Social Security. If you're married and it's over $44,000, 85% of your Social Security is taxable. You don't lose 85%. It's just 85% of it is taxed at your rate. And here's the other limits. If you're married, if it's between 32 and 44, half of it is. If you're married and it's under 32, none of it is. So I like to look at things good and bad, right? It's a bad thing if 85% of your Social Security is taxable, but it's a good thing because your income's over $44,000, right? So it's almost unavoidable that our Social Security is going to be taxed at some rate. Interest from our bank accounts, CDs, money market, savings, checking, all of that is taxable. And we're earning a very low rate to begin with. Then they take a portion of it, and what are we left with? Almost nothing. This is a really interesting rule. This is a fun little math equation that I like for everybody to understand, because it really, you're shaking your head, you know it. Yeah, it's a cool little thing if you've never heard of this before. Rule of 72. It lets you know how many years it takes your money to double if you earn a certain rate of return. And then you can flip it too. You can say, well, how many years, what kind of rate of return do I need? So how many years does it take for your money to double? And we'll start with a really high rate of return, 10%. So if we can somehow earn 10%, maybe in a very aggressive stock portfolio, maybe all of your money is an Apple computer, you're going to earn 10% a year. That stock has done phenomenal. So if you earn 10% a year, you take 72 divided by 10% a year, it only takes 7 years for your money to double. That's pretty good. But 10% is hard to get. 6%, so 72 divided by 6 is 12 years. So you see where this is going. The lower the rate of return, the longer it takes. Let's throw 3% up there. I wasn't a math major, but I know that's 24 years. We can't even get 3% right now at the bank. Can you imagine if we get 1% a year, it takes 72 years for our money to double. Oh, and we forgot, we got to take the tax out as well. So, but this is a good, fun little equation. And if you have kids or grandkids, they should understand this. The sooner the better. It's a great way to understand the power of compounding. So, I mean, here's where CD rates are. You know, they're at all-time historic lows. So what are we going to do? Oh, and then this word, inflation. It's eating out our money. You know, I love telling inflation stories. I love when people tell me their experience when it comes to inflation, and I love telling mine. So I got to tell you my quick little inflation story because I know everybody has one. This past winter, I was in Florida, and I went into Publix grocery store to buy a few things with my wife, and it was early in the morning. And all the employees were, stocking the shelves and doing stuff, and we were in the cereal aisle, and there was an employee in there. He was changing prices, and because I was an economics major, you know, the economy I'm always thinking about the economy, and I see this guy changing prices. Now he was changing prices on Pop-Tarts, and I love Pop-Tarts, but my wife won't let me eat them anymore. You know, those strawberry ones with the frosting on it, man, those are money. But I can't eat them anymore, all right? But I see this guy, he's changing prices. And I grabbed my wife, I said, I gotta watch this because this is an experiment in economics 101. I wanna see what happens. He pops off the price tag of Pop-Tarts at $2, let me think about this, $2.45. All right, what's the new one gonna be? It was $3.25. That's not 7%, that's not 8%, that's not 10%, that's 30%. Government is telling us it's 8%. Is General Mills ever going to drop the price on those Pop-Tarts? Heck no. Inflation's real. We got to figure this, this is real. When Flora does plans for her clients, she factors in inflation. Now she might not be factoring 8% every year because that's impossible. It's not going to continue at this rate. But this 8% is baked in. And it's just where do we go from here? Back to 2% a year, 3%. But that 8% is baked in. So it's part of it because it's eating at our money. And then we pay taxes on capital gains, right? We buy something, we sell something, we got to pay the tax on that gain, whether it's a stock. And here's a quick example of real estate. So we have an individual, her name is Ellen, and Ellen's husband died 20 years ago. Ellen's husband left her a $100,000 life insurance policy that she collected, $100,000 tax-free. She invested it in 2 rental properties 20 years ago. Put $25,000 in each. I mean, $50,000 in each for a $100,000 investment. It's done great. We all know what real estate's done. So the $100,000 is now worth about $500,000. She's got a gain of $400,000. And she doesn't want to keep this going. She wants to get rid of them because the market's at all-time highs, becoming a hassle. She's got 2 kids. Ellen has a daughter by the name of Mary and a son by the name of Michael. Now Mary's got her stuff together. She's got a great job, great career, kids, house, money, successful. She's responsible. But Michael, on the other hand, really doesn't have it going, in and out of work, doesn't have any money saved. He's not married. Likes the ponies, likes to sip on a cold Guinness every once in a while. He's got some issues, not responsible. So Ellen doesn't want to give them these properties. She's thinking, well, maybe I put them into a trust, maybe sell them there and then control the assets within the trust so that I can control it and Michael can't spend it on crazy things. And I know Mary's responsible. So, but this is a situation where maybe a trust in getting some good legal advice in this situation, instead of selling it and paying all this tax and maybe keeping it. So we're going to talk a little bit about legal matters and the importance of estate planning. An estate plan might come in to help here because if she sells it outright, the tax could be over $100,000. That might not make sense. So having your legal affairs in order. This is a situation where maybe a trust could help out Ellen and her 2 kids. But bottom line is, capital gains is real. Okay, taxes on our retirement accounts. I talked about it. We got a lien on it. We don't know what that tax lien is. right? 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, thrift savings plans are all taxable. Every penny in, every penny out is taxable. And there's penalties if you don't get the money out properly. So in 2019, Congress passed the Secure Act. Is anybody familiar with the Secure Act and some of the changes to retirement accounts? Good, I can explain it to everybody. Oh, some, okay. So they made some changes to the rules, and some of them are up here. These 5 rules changed. So I'll go through them real quick. Elimination of the Stretchy IRA. We're going to talk about that at the end. That's a big one. That's huge. RMDs, required minimum distribution. You have to take money out of the IRAs at 72. It used to be 70 and a half. It's now 72. If you're still working. If you're still working.
If you're still working, you don't have to make a withdrawal. Right?
Of that plan that you're in. Correct. Way to catch that. Remove the age, contribution age to an IRA. If you're working at 75 years old, you can still put money in an IRA. No age limits. Increase automatic enrollment from 10 to 15%. This is for younger people. So when our kids and grandkids go to work for the first time, they're automatically in the plan at 15% of their salary. Only way out is you have to opt out. Not opt in, you have to opt out. And then the federal government is encouraging the use of annuities in our retirement accounts. Annuities, man, I think aren't those things awful? I mean, I just hear bad things about annuities. But the federal government is encouraging it because actually they're actually very good. You know, what is Social Security?
It's an annuity.
It's an annuity. What's a pension?
It's an annuity.
It's an annuity. So we're trying to create guaranteed income in our own retirement plans. So let's go to the Stretchy IRA because this is huge. Okay. Whenever a spouse inherits an IRA from another spouse, they just treat it as their own. Okay, no changes before the law, no changes after. Spouse inherits the other spouse's IRA, they just inherit it, no taxes, no penalties, it's treated as their own, no changes. It's when a non-spouse inherits an IRA. So when our children inherit our IRAs, before this law change, they could keep it in for their life expectancy. So if a child inherits their parents' IRA, and let's say they're 55 years old, well, they could leave it in for their life expectancy. They could leave it in for like 30 years. Take a little bit out every year, and in 30 years, it have to be empty. Now they're saying when a non-spouse inherits an IRA, it has to be emptied in 10 years. So that is, the federal government, bottom line, the federal government knows how much money is in these plans to the penny. They're speeding up the process of when this is going to be taxed. So if our children are doing better than we are when we're retired, well, they're going to be in a higher tax bracket. It's going to be taxed at a higher rate. If our children are not doing as well, let's say they're just in a career that isn't very high paying, or they have health issues and they don't have a lot of income, but they need the money. They need to buy a car, they need a house, they need college education funds, and they take the money out in a big chunk, well, it's going to get taxed at a high rate. They know this is no accident. This is huge that they did this. They want taxes on these IRAs, and they want it faster. So what can Flora do? What can an advisor do to prevent this from happening? We're going to talk about some strategies here, a very important strategy. But first, we have to address the first rule of taking money out. And the first rule is a required minimum distribution. So when we're 72 years old, whether we like it or not, we have to take out, we'll round that up, we have to take out 4% a year. Whether we want it or not, whether we need it or not, it has to come out. And then that percentage gets bigger every single year. So the dollar amount gets bigger every year. So one of the things I know that Flora does with the people she meets with is she does some RMD planning. Hey, let's take a look at what the RMDs will be if you're retired at 65, right? So if you're 65, and I'm just going to use round numbers to make math easy. Someone has accrued $500,000 in IRAs and thrift savings plans, retirement accounts. At 65, 4% of that is $20,000. So if that 500 doesn't grow a penny in 7 years, the RMD is $20,000 a year. Now, could that throw that client into an upper tax bracket? Could it throw them into the next tax bracket? The one that we're in right now, because we don't know where taxes are going to be in 7 years. And everybody in the room said they were going to go higher. Okay? So we know the income is going to go up by 20,000 if it doesn't even grow. Let's say the 500 becomes 800,000. Could easily do that in 7 years. 4% of 800 is now 32,000. What does 32,000 do to your future taxes? Does it throw you in a higher bracket? Possibly so. That's if rates stay where they are. But no one thinks that in this room. Everybody thinks they're going higher. So keep doing the math. $1 million, 40,000. 1.5, 60,000. 2 million, 80,000. There's your RMDs. Add it to your income. What does it do to your bracket? So we need to know that ahead of time when you're in your 60s, not when you're 72 or 71 and a half. Because we can do something about it. We can do something called a Roth IRA conversion. So let's explain that real quick. There's a Roth contribution and a Roth conversion. Let's go over contribution first. That's just when you take money out of your checking account, after-tax money, deposit into your IRA, Roth IRA. And you can contribute, if you're over 50, $7,000 a year. That's the max. That's all you can put in. A Roth conversion is where you take money out of your IRA today, pay the tax today, and redeposit it into a Roth IRA where it grows tax-free forever. Roth IRAs grow forever tax-free, forever for you and forever for your beneficiaries. It's a tax-free account. It's one of the only tax advantage strategies we have left. There's only a couple, that's one of them. So why would you let your IRA get so big that your RMD is so big that it throws you in a higher bracket in the future, even if rates stay where they are? Because we all think they're going higher, right? I mean, that's the whole idea behind this, is to know what your RMDs are going to be. And you don't do this in big chunks. Maybe you take a little bit out over the next 7 years. You systematically keep that IRA from getting too big while you're building up another account that's going to grow tax-free to your kids. And they can leave it in for 10 more years. The Roth can, when a non-spouse inherits that IRA, that Roth IRA, they can keep it in there for 10 more years of growth. 10 years at 7% becomes a double, tax-free. We've got to get money into the Roth account. That's one way to do it in your 60s or anytime. But you don't want to throw yourself into a higher bracket by doing it. You want to do it systematically, maybe take smaller amounts out. Again, Flora does this in her sleep. She does. It's very common. Okay, legal and estate matters. I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on television. But there are some basic things you need to do when it comes to your estate planning, right? We need a will. We need a power of attorney, right? We need medical directives. Trust, maybe not so much. Some yes, some no. Make sure your beneficiaries are properly named. When my mom, a few years ago, she sold her house, she couldn't, mentally she couldn't pull that transaction off. And she has 6 kids. I'm one of her power of attorneys. I went in, did the transaction, signed for her, easy. Get power of attorneys. They're so important important to have. And my mom, when, God forbid, when she passes away, all of her assets go to her 6 kids, and it's all going to avoid probate. And we're not even using a trust. So there's some simple things you can do. So again, I'm not an attorney, but what Flora likes to do is work closely with her clients to make sure that they have these things lined up. She doesn't like issues. She doesn't like surprises. She's very organized. This is important to have this stuff. She doesn't get compensated to make sure you guys have this stuff. Nobody, doesn't benefit me, doesn't benefit her, but it benefits you, the client. It's important to have these things, whether you're at the end or you're at the beginning of retirement. Okay, so got 2 more risks to talk about. Talked about taxes. Here, let me say one more thing about taxes, because I told you I'm passionate about this. We have to be proactive, right? You can't look back 5 years from now and say, I was at that workshop in the Bowie Library. Patrick Moriarty was standing up there telling me that taxes were going to go higher. And if you don't do anything about it, then you're affected by these higher rates. And I love analogies. I love using analogies, and I love using sports analogies. So I'm going to throw one at you right now. Hockey analogy. I love hockey. And the greatest hockey player of all times, and still is today, is Wayne Gretzky. He was the greatest player of all times. And when he retired, a newspaper reporter sat down with him and said, Wayne, why were you so good? And very simply, he answered it real simple, one simple sentence. He said, I skated to where the puck was going, not to where the puck is. That's what we have to do with taxes. We have to anticipate where those taxes are going, or else we're just going to pay the higher rates. Bottom line. So that's my talk on taxes. All right, what are the 2 other threats? Long-term care. We know it. My mom pays $9,000 a month. She has a Social Security check and a pension check, doesn't cover it. Fortunately, she's got a great financial advisor who set her up. Long-term care, it's too much risk to our nest egg. Here's that stat, 70% of people 65 and older can expect to use long-term care at some point in their lives. And it's because we're living longer. If you're a male, 65 and single, there's a 50% chance you make it to 85, 25% chance you make it to 92. If you're female, single at 65, there's a 50% chance you make it to 88, and a 25% chance you make it to 94. If you're married at 65, as my parents were, 50% chance one makes it to 92. My mom is 92. My dad passed away in his late 80s. There's another 25% chance my mom makes it to 97. I hope not. It's just not good. But there it is. I mean, we know we're living longer. If we're eating right, active, exercising, all that stuff, medical, it's taking us further and further, older and older, and then we're going to need the care. I did some research on my grandparents, my 2 grandfathers. They both retired in the same town at 65, and they both died at 75. They didn't need long-term care. But we're living into our 80s and 90s. And here's the cost. I mean, it is what it is. And it's only going to the demand's only going through the roof. You know that Jimmy Buffett is the ultimate baby boomer. He's like 72 years old. He's like the first baby boomer. That guy's brilliant. He's building active living communities throughout the country because of the demand for baby boomers to live in these lifestyles. Next thing he's probably going to do is build nursing homes because he knows what the trends are. It's only going to get more expensive because the demand's going through the roof. And Medicare only covers so much. Sure, they cover the first 20 days, and then 21 through 100, you pay some, they get the rest. But after 101 days, we have to pay for it all. So how do we pay for it? We can self-insure, Now, this is what my mom's doing because she was like too old to get it when these better policies came out. Or Medicaid, but no, those facilities aren't the best. Or long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance just enables you to invest pennies to get dollars, simply put. And there's two options. I like to say there's the old insurance, like long-term care policies, and there's new. The old, we'll talk about them, but they're not even worth talking. They don't even exist anymore. They were so bad. So that's the traditional, the old policies. It's like car insurance, homeowners insurance. You pay a monthly premium. If you die at 72 and don't need it, will you lose that whole premium? Now, sometimes these policies were so poorly constructed that the premiums went up and the coverage went down, and some of them even just imploded. So the old policies, not even worth talking about. The new policies, though, they're more of an asset-based, or what we like to call a hybrid policy. And what that means, it's a combination of a life insurance policy and a long-term care policy. Show you how it works. So we have a premium. We're just going to use $100,000 as an example. So we put $100,000 into the bucket, as a premium. Three things can happen. Get a return of your premium. Now, maybe you take a little bit of a haircut for some surrender charges, but you can get back a bulk of your money if you change your mind. But if you die early, which the old policies were no good, you die early, you lost all that premium. If you die early, there's a tax-free benefit to your beneficiary, $150,000 tax-free to your kids. You win. You don't lose the money. But if you need long-term care, the $100,000 buys you a bucket of money to use for long-term care. Now, depending on your age, depending on your health, depending on your finances, it determines how much coverage you get. But you have a bucket of money to use. You use that first. And by the way, they don't sell these at every 7-Eleven or every gas station on the corner. You know, you have to qualify for these. You know, the younger you are, the better. The better the health you're in, the better. The sooner you do it, sometimes the better. But it's a great way, right, to take pennies to get dollars. And all you're doing is you're just reallocating your resources. You're just moving some money maybe from these two and putting it into that pie right there. And real important, if you have existing life policies, like old whole life policies, get them reviewed, show them to Flora. Sometimes you can exchange them into a new policy if you want long-term care and flip it into a hybrid. Sometimes you can do that. So that's a great way to kind of maybe transition into not needing the life so much. If you don't need the life policy anymore, you turn it into a long-term care policy. So bottom line is, do your research, a lot of different options, talk to a professional, see what's right for you, bottom line. But it's important to understand the ins and outs. Okay, last piece of the puzzle, market risk, market volatility, the ups and downs of the stock market. We're now in the conservation stage. We're not in the accumulation stage any longer. Got to make sure this money lasts as long as we do. And really, there's two options, what we can do with our money. Safety, right? The bank, CDs, money markets. And then there's the market. And with what's been going on over the last 5 to 10 years, with rates going like this, more and more people are pushing their money into this side right here. Right? And there's two reasons. You know, we like to use these abbreviations now, right? Everybody's using them when they text, right? LOL, right? Laugh out loud. My favorite, BOGO, buy one, get one, right? But there's a couple that have been used a lot lately when it comes to your personal finances. One is FOMO, F-O-M-O. You know what that stands for? Fear of missing out. Got to put the money in the market, fear of missing out. The other is Tina. Anybody's name Tina? Tina. There is no alternative. You know, there is no alternative to the market. Well, there is an alternative, especially if you want it to last forever. So you can't get forced into that. When you're in the accumulation phase, for sure, you want it all there. Because what's the current rate on a CD? I mean, maybe they're paying us 1% now. I mean, 1.5, maybe. Maybe there's a special at 2. Heck, the 10-year treasury is 3%. Lock it up for 10 years, get 3%, and it's taxable, and inflation. So, with growth comes market corrections. I mean, we've seen it. Down 1,000 points on Friday. Look, I love this slide. I'm going to spend a little time on it because it really explains and really highlights you really understand the meaning of risk, market risk, volatility, and losses. So I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on this one. So if we have an investment, and I really don't care what it is. I don't care if it's stocks, bonds, real estate, Bitcoin, oil. But if we start with $100,000, we're committed to this investment for at least 1 year. 1 full year, we're not going to touch it. We start with 100,000, and it drops by 20% over those 365 days. And we're committed. We're not selling it. It's now worth $80,000. We're going to give it another year. And if it comes back 20%, I'm out. So the following year, it's up 20%. Are we even? And I wasn't a math major at the University of Maryland. I studied economics. And I know that the answer to that is no, we're not even. Because if we have an investment of 100,000 and we lose 20%, it's worth 80. A 20% gain on 80 is 16,000. 80 and 16 is 96. 96 is not 100. We need a 25% gain to get even. No matter the loss, the gain has to be bigger to be even. Now, we're retired. We're spending some of this money. Whether it's your RMD or you need to spend some of your money. And we take out 5%. No big deal. It'll last forever, right? Let's go through that exercise real quick. January 1st, first year, we're going to take out 5%. We need to spend it. We want to travel. We want to play golf because your grandkids go out to dinner. We're going to enjoy retirement. Take out 5%. First year, the market's down 20%. No big deal. It always comes back. That's what all the advisors say. It always comes back. It's okay. So now we're 1 year into it. We're on our second January 1st. Got to take out that 5% because we want to live at retirement. So we want to travel. We want to play golf, go out in our boat, have fun, see the grandkids. Let's do the math real quick. We took out 5 twice. That's 10%. Plus it went down 20%. Now we're in the second year. 20 and 10 is 30. 30% drop. We need 43% to get even. If we don't get that in that second year, we're just digging this hole. It's a spiral. It's almost like quicksand that we can't get out of. And that's called sequence of return risk. Google it when you get home. Sequence of return risk. If we get negative rates of return early in retirement, we can run out of money as opposed to late in retirement. A lot of advisors don't talk about this risk. Flora does. Sequence of return risk. Siri knows all about it. So back in 2008, we know the stock market dropped 38%. We needed a 65% gain to get even. Actually, the 2000s were known as the lost decade of investing. It dropped in 2001 to 2003, went up to 2008, dropped again. It took like 15 years to get even. And here it is. Well, that's too short, but there's 16 to 21. I mean, there's volatility. So what's the strategy? What can work? We need something where our principal is going to be intact, but we get something better than 1% at the bank. We need principal protection and potential growth. A way to do that is with a fixed indexed account, a fixed indexed annuity with some of the strongest insurance companies in the business. And the concept is that we put money into this account, and this account is linked to an index, and let's just call it the S&P 500 to keep it real simple. If the index goes up, we get a percentage of that increase. We don't get it all, because we have absolutely no downside risk to the principal. If it's down in a given year, we get a 0 interest rate credit. 0. We never lose our principal, we never lose our gains. So all we're really giving up is the opportunity to earn money at the bank, the 1%. That's our opportunity loss. So it avoids potential losses. And here's the way it looks. So the red line is the stock market. It's the S&P 500. The blue is the fixed indexed account. So the first year, the market's up 6%. I told you, we don't get all the upside. So maybe we're up like 4. Okay, great. No downside, I'll take 4 over 6, because I have no risk. The next year, it's up again, but I don't get it all. Third year, up again. The market's up like, I don't know, 130%. I'm only up 120. That's okay, I have no downside. Now the bad times come, and the market is down. You go flat. Goes sideways, it goes down again, we go sideways. You don't lose. And then when it recovers, now that the market's digging out of this hole and you're not. So it's an idea, it's a strategy for some money. It's almost like a bond substitute. You're not going to get 12, 13, 15%. But you're going to do better than what money markets are paying or CDs are paying. It's the best of both worlds. And this is something that Flora likes to do is buckets of money. We've got our personal pension. This is our guaranteed money. This is where we put our safe money, our guaranteed returns. That's like the fixed indexed accounts. And then we have our bank money. This is our liquid money. This is the money we need to spend on a regular basis. It's our liquid balances. And then finally, here's our growth. That's our at-risk money. That's our long-term money that we are not going to sell when it's down, because we have these other buckets we can dip into. And so everybody needs to know what percentage goes into those 3 buckets. Our liquid bucket at the bank, our guaranteed money, and then our at-risk money. And that just depends on your age and your needs and your risk tolerance. Flora does that all day long. And, having a comprehensive plan, looking at everything. Budget, Social Security, taxes, Medicare, long-term care, final expense, estate and legal, and then portfolio management. Flora likes to take a comprehensive look at when she's working with individuals. Does she benefit if you have a good estate plan? No, but it's right for you. She's not an attorney, but it's part of the puzzle. So it's not one product, it's not a program, a concept that shields us from the financial risks associated with retirement. It's working with someone trusted, who specializes in asset preservation, truly helps us achieve our financial goals in retirement. And that ends my presentation. I know I threw a lot at you, like with a fire hose. I would love a fire hose right now. Jump in a pool, right? Because I get jacked up when I talk about this stuff. I hope you learned something. Again, educational. Pointed out some ideas, but I appreciate your time, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does Anybody have questions? I know it's a little hot and we're a little bit over.
Can you get the slides?
The book is the slides.
It's in there. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
the book, every page of the book is the slide. Okay?
I have a work savings. Could you convert that to the Roth IRA?
Absolutely. Well, I would want to make sure it's okay for you and I don't elevate your tax bracket. Great conversation. Yeah.
What's the current exemption for states in Maryland?
Exemptions for what?
For dollar amount, total dollar amount before you get a state tax on the state.
Oh, for the state of Maryland, probate? Yeah.
probate.
I know that
It-
most states is 6.1 million. I would defer to you.
But the state level of Maryland, I think it's very low. I think it's like, I think it's like 50 grand or something, and then you have to go through probate.
Well, no, not probate,
Can you
once you
repeat
go to probate, what is the
Estate planning taxes.
exemption? It used to be $1 million,
Yeah,
and now I. think
yeah, that's
it's more.
federal. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's federal.
5.
Yeah, it's big. It's a big number. Yeah.
But didn't state tax also that way too?
We'll get that answer for you right away.
Is there a minimum, if you, insurance, is there a minimum has to be filed? I mean, you get a tax. on
Yeah.
$100,000, minimum or-
Yeah, there's basically no minimum.
So the fixed index annuity is an annuity, correct? So the the tax exemption is 12.6 for married. For married,
For a single,
4.06.
4.2.
4.06. Minimum
Spend
distribution.
down the RMD.
Yeah.
And is that money, like what area is this, can we spend? Anything?
So-
Vacation or does it have to be?
So the question is, what can you use your required minimum distribution on? Remember, this is money that you put aside when you were working. So the government doesn't care what you spend on. It's not categorized. They just care that if you don't take it, they'll take 50% of it. It's your money, you're getting it back. You pay ordinary income for it, ordinary income taxes for it. You can do whatever you want. Some people take, if you don't need it, some people take it and invest it. I have a client who has 36 grand nieces and nephews. And I said, Millie, you gotta give this money away right now. She said, I'm getting so much money from the government and I don't need it. She's elderly and everything. I said, take it and give it away, because if you don't take it, $180,000 of RMD, you're paying the government $90,000. More questions?
Can you convert to a Roth at any time?
You can do the conversion to a Roth at any time. However, like Patrick said, I'd love to be strategic about it so that you're not paying all the taxes up front. So we can do micro conversions. If you have $100,000 that you want to convert, if your income is $60,000, you just had another $100,000 of income. So now the tax bracket is super high. So you would have to be strategic about how you do the conversion. It's not for everybody. The conversion is not for
That's right, it's
everybody.
not.
It has to be for the right person.
And if you're over 72, you have to take your RMD first, then you can do a conversion. And you can't convert your RMD.
So I had three things that we cannot control but affect us. I had taxes. None of us has any control as to whether the tax bracket for you will change or not. You can't control it. I had how long we're gonna live. You don't know how long you're gonna live, right? Is it a text?
Yeah, the big guy, he doesn't text us.
Or can we
don't know.
text?
Maybe we could text him. I'm gonna try tomorrow morning, but
So that's the second thing. So none of us has an idea of our longevity. So we have that risk of running out of money. None of us know what the taxes will look like. So you do not know what your tax bracket is going to look like. And number three, which is critical, none of us can predict what the market is going to do. You don't know whether when you get the money is when the market will pull down 20, 30, 40%. We have no idea. So I'm gonna say a couple of things. One, money loves discipline. Money loves direction. One of my best friends from college is in this room today. She's an HR director, and I know she performs her job immaculately well and writes absolutely good job descriptions. A financial plan is a job description. You are telling your money, this is what I want you to accomplish for me. The better the job description, the better the candidate, the better the outcome. So just think, as you go home, think about it. Have I assigned tasks for my dollars? Do I know what my money is doing? And is it doing what I assigned it to do? If the question is, I don't even know what my money is doing, or I think it's doing this, talk to us. So there's no, we don't charge a fee for you to have a conversation with us. We use every conversation as a learning opportunity for us. We come across new scenarios that we have to learn and work through. We'll give you things that you can implement with us or implement with your existing financial advisor. I love hearing that somebody has a financial advisor because you have a head start. I possibly could give you a different perspective that you can take a look at and come out on top. Either way, please fill in the form. I realize somebody pointed out it has very pointed questions. It doesn't have to be any of these questions. There's a section that says other areas. It doesn't matter if you know that you have a question, you'd like clarity, you'd like, you asked about the 3 savings plan. Happy to come out and happy to have a conversation with you. We have offices in 8 states. We're constantly on the move. We love it. Can't sit still. That's my son over there. He travels with me. By the way, he got me into the business because I said to him, if I died today, what would you do with your brother and sister? And he said, we'll probably be buried with you. I said, I don't know. Just the mob buries people alive. I don't think anybody else is buried alive. So I knew I had to do something, and I had to do it really, really well. And I needed to bring him into the business so that he would get a big head start, so that he's not in the same situation as I am. Please give us the forms. We have an office in Greenbelt. Thank you so much, Greg, for being our partner. Greg is our partner down here. He does a lot in this area for Maryland and nationally. I know you're doing a lot of things nationally. He is streaming this presentation live, so there's a lot of other people that are benefiting from your participation. The blue sheet goes to a lawyer. We will find, if you express interest in the blue sheet, I would really love it if every single person has their, it's gonna sound terrible, acts together as far as documents are concerned. You cannot begin to understand how painful it is for someone to try and access the funds that you saved for them, but never told anybody that it was for them. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Go to the bank, something happened, I need to access my husband's or my wife's account, and we're like, who are you? Nothing says that, right?
I have a question concerning, I'm there on the couch for my mother for 91. And I need assistance on estate planning because trying to talk about a will, we delayed it for years because it's just, so I now she needs help. She has money coming in, I don't know where her accounts are, so I'm glad I'm here because
You're gonna need both sheets.
yeah, because I have to be the one. She's holding me responsible for making sure her stuff is okay, so I need to.
She had the right sense of mind to appoint somebody. It would be a completely different conversation if she couldn't take care of herself and there was nobody appointed already. It's a much longer process, painful for everybody. So on the front of our folders, you can interact with us by just Googling us or clicking the QR code at the back of the folder. It will take you right to our website. You can see all the services that we provide. We really are just trying to make your planning simple so that you can do the things that matter the most to you, like taking care of your family. That's all I got. Anybody wants to give me tips on how I should spend my afternoon?
With me.
So Medicare is going through some changes this year. You will see a lot of changes come through. So if you have not received a call from your Medicare agents, we have a network of agents, plenty of them. Do you have any Medicare agent here today?
Medicare, yeah, Tracy right here.
Tracy is in the room. Would strongly encourage that you just have Tracy take a look at your existing Medicare plan. I know active enrollment is coming up, so you want to make sure you're in the right place. It's no cost to review your Medicare plan. Last minute. Financial advisors monitor the IRA accounts. If you're managing them, yes. Be specific.
Like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, people that are IRA account, and then like monitor, like, the future, like, advice on the future, like,
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
individual market account,
So we're prohibited by law from predicting the market, but we're allowed by law to look back at the market performance over X number of years and say, you know what, this is what it did for the last 20 years. There's a pretty good idea, it's a pretty good possibility it could go in this direction. I can't predict and say next year the market is going to be up 8%, but I can look and say the market goes through cycles every so often, and therefore this looks like where you're at in this cycle. However, financial advisor's true value is saying, what do you want your money to do for you? What is your risk tolerance? What risk can we take? Do we want to take the risk that it's going to give us 45%? Because that's a tremendous amount of risk. You could lose 50% trying to make 45%. Are you willing to do that risk? So the advisor brings to the surface what your priorities for your money are, and then we look for what investments can mirror those priorities.
so it's still being, you're on the side, but it's still being the same amount that.
So now we are entering products. What you're asking is, from the chart, from the fixed index annuity chart, you still gain even though the market is dropping? No. If the market is dropping, you lock in the gains that you had gained when the market was going up, and you just stay there until the market starts to go up again. So consider a fixed index annuity almost like a ladder crediting strategy, right? When you step on the middle stair and you want to think a little bit, you don't fall. Just stay there until you make your next decision and keep going. So you lock in the gains and go. What's that?
Well, the market's going up, and then you have growth, you have increase, and when it is in the deficit or you have inflation,
Just
when
hang
it
on.
goes down, you just stay level, you don't lose any.
Correct.
I was at a previous workshop.
Yeah.
Dealing with the life insurance, was that discussed? Will that be discussed in the consultation?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
In regards to capital gains, and investments, properties and so forth, can you elaborate a little bit more on your ways to present, if you sell and so forth?
You can do a 1035. You can do a 1031 exchange, meaning you can move from property to another property. So the conversation there would be, what are we hoping to accomplish? We're selling it so that we can do what? Because if we're selling it because we need the money, honestly, maybe at that point it's too late to like do something. You're gonna pay the capital gains and spend the funds. But are there ways to mitigate it against capital gains? 1031. 1031 is the exchange from one property to another within a certain set time limit. Okay. Anybody has tips on where I should go for the afternoon? I have like 4 hours to kill.
Someone will take air conditioning.
I'm so sorry about this. The library apologized in advance. They said their cooler is not working, but it was too late.
Well, let's give Flora and Patrick a hand. Is that beneficial to you guys? Some good nuggets? And so look, the greatest thing that you guys can do today for yourselves is fill out these forms.
Yep.
And whether you think that you qualify for any of these things or the time is right, just have the conversation. It's a lot of information. I've been doing this for a while. A lot of these things I've done for myself, but even I took a page full of notes. And so I see a lot of my Big Life Financial Services agents here. I also want you guys, she's our partner. And so if you guys have any questions personally about your retirement, fill out the forms. Let them talk to you guys one-on-one. And so everything that you guys need, we have. Obviously, all the questions about real estate and 1031 exchanges and solo 401ks and things like that, we can help you guys with attorneys. We can help you with estate planning, probate, all those kinds of things we can help you. And so fill those forms out and let's get our financial future in order. And it starts today. And let's not make today the time spent be in vain. But thank you guys so much for being here. Give yourselves a hand.
Keep the book, refer to it from time to time. Hand in your sheets to Larry and Amanda. Got this, thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
you.
Very much. You're welcome.